America, America, make God thy gold refined till all success be nobleness and ever again divine. And you know, when I was in school, we used to sing it something like this. Listen here. Oh, beautiful.
Hello and welcome back to Wayland Weekly Buzz. I'm your host, Ken Isaacson. For our Spotlight Report this week, once again, Susan Wagner interviews town planner Saki Sarkeesian. They'll talk about potential changes in Cochituate. There's been much controversy in recent years over developments that have been changing the character of that village. They'll be discussing potential developments for commercial buildings on Main Street from West Plain Street down to Route 30. Then they'll be taking a fresh look at long envisioned plans to improve the business district along the town center section of Route 20. We'll get to that discussion after these town government committee reports. We begin with the Board of Selectmen. In a public hearing on Monday, December 3rd, Board of Assessors Chair Susan Rufo presented data relative to the setting of the tax rate. The Selectmen approved the fiscal year 2019 Wayland residential tax rate at $18.28 per thousand of valuation. Moving on in town business, the warrant for the 2019 annual town meeting and town election will be open from Friday, December 14th, 2018 to Tuesday, January 15th, 2019. Town election will be held on April 23rd, and annual town meeting will begin on April 29th, 2019. Town Administrator Louise Miller reported that the Zoning Board of Appeals expects to have a decision in January on the placement of a Verizon cell tower on private land owned by the Wayland Rod and Gun Club. The lot is located at 4 Meadowview Road, which is in an Rt.20 single residence district and an aquifer protection district. Abutters have hired legal counsel to oppose the placement. We have now heard that the Mass Department of Transportation is interested in leasing its site on Route 20 in a public-private partnership between DOT and the town and Herb Chambers Company, which will provide for the parking of Wayland school buses. Since the property is located just over the Wayland line in Sudbury, there may be a need for a special act to be voted at annual town meeting. And the last item, removal of contaminated soil at the River's Edge site has finally begun under the contract established for that purpose. Should no surprises present themselves, removal should be completed within about 2 weeks. Recapping Finance Committee discussions during November, the committee participated in the special town meeting warrant hearing run by the Selectmen on November 5th. They reviewed $2.2 million in Public Works fiscal year 2020 capital requests and $1.5 million in Water Division requests. FinCom also discussed with the Board of Public Works impending stormwater requirements and the impact these will have not only on the fiscal 2020 budget, but going forward. Following discussion from their November 13th meeting, the Finance Committee has recommended that the Selectmen amend the town's OPEB, and that stands for Other Post-Employment Benefits, Trust, document. Under the current plan, the town has an actuarial accrued liability of $40.6 million and plan assets of $13.8 million, which are held in a trust fund. But the current fund does not comply with all government accounting standards requirements and does not clarify investment management responsibility. FinCom recommends rectifying that situation. Currently, all OPEB retiree benefit payments come from current taxation, none from the OPEB trust itself. Continuing this practice will create a steep rise in contributions from taxation in the coming years. FinCom's solution is to first create a true trust fund and then to begin paying some of the benefits from the trust fund at an appropriate time, sooner than in the original plan. This would mitigate the amount of coming from taxation, but would still enable the town to meet its OPEB obligation. Among the items from the November 26th meeting, the finance director and town administrator presented the town's proposed operating budget for fiscal year 2020. Submitted expenses were $465,000, or 5.28% higher than fiscal year 2019. The total, if funded, would bring the town operating budget increase to $865,000. What's more, the totals do not include unclassified expenses, and there are about $531,000 in initiatives that the town finance team identified and did not include, such as proposed budget increases of about $200,000 for snow and ice expenses, or $210,000 for stormwater expenses. Budgets are due by December 15th. Also on the 26th, FinCom voted to recommend that the selectmen adopt policies that will protect the town's AAA bond rating, including establishment of a capital stabilization fund, and ensuring the town maintains a minimum 20% fund balance. The planning board has been meeting for the past 2 weeks in the public hearing for site plan approval and review of 2 projects. One is for a new parking lot off the high school main entrance driveway. It will service the proposed 6 tennis courts and 2 basketball courts and replace the existing parking lot accessed from Old Connecticut Path. New sidewalks are also proposed, providing access to new courts. Within the larger project are replacement of the running track, turf field, grandstand bleachers, press box, softball field, and support building for the stadium. The support buildings include a restroom building, ticket and concession stands, and storage building. The other hearing is for the local conservation and recreation area. The proposed improvements include a new parking lot to support both the proposed turf field and the conservation trails area. Additional improvements include, but are not limited to, stormwater mitigation, removal of pavement areas throughout the property, an accessible sidewalk from the new parking lot to the turf field, and an access drive to the field for emergency and service vehicles. Most of the topics discussed during the Board of Public Works meeting on December 4th centered around water. The board is in the process of updating water regulations. They're also looking at updating their process and policy to improve collections from residents who are delinquent in paying their water bills. The board also reports that new stormwater regulations will soon be coming to Wayland as a result of regulations being imposed by the state. And that's it for committee reports. Now on to our interview.
Now that construction work at the Route 27, Route 30 intersection in Cochituate has been completed, town residents are once again asking what's being contemplated to improve the appearance of the commercial establishments further up Main Street between Route 30 and West Plain Street. This includes the buildings across from Hannah Williams Park, as well as the shuttered gas station that's up for sale, and a dated and not particularly well-maintained building housing Honey Farms, International Auto Body, Liberty Pizza, and Town Cleaners. And, of course, there's the commercial district on Route 20 from the historic town center in the direction of Sudbury. For answers, we turn to town planner Sarkisian. Sarkey, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to be on the show.
You're welcome, Susan.
So let's start with the Route 27 West Plain Street intersection. What needs to be done? What can be done at the gas station?
Well, first, thank you for having me on the show, Susan.
Anytime.
I'd like to start off, if I could, courtesy of TD Bank North, an early 1900s photograph of Main Street in Cochituate Village. It's really an inspirational photo of what we would like to bring back to Main Street in Cochituate. Right now, we have as you mentioned, a vacant gas station at the corner of West Plain Street and East Plain Street in Main Street. And that vacant gas station has been vacant now for almost a year and a half. We also have next door a different property owner, two private property owners, of basically a strip mall that has frontage on Main Street. So what the planning board would like to do is be a little proactive as far as what do we want to see there and what does the zoning allow. So I've started, and this is just a draft improvement that I'd like to go through right now, of a proposal to see the site redeveloped, put some creative zoning in place. Discussions with the planning board, this is going to take time. We obviously want to have buy-in from the neighborhood. We want to invite the neighborhood to these meetings, create a team atmosphere so that we could present a zoning article next year. Not this Springtown meeting, but maybe in the fall. So we have time to work on this and to bring this into fruition. So if we start off basically looking at the site itself, an overview, as a crow flies, this is the site. We have Main Street, West Plain Street. We have the gas station, the vacant gas station, and of course, to the south we have.
Can we turn that a little so I can see it?
Of course.
Thank you. That's great.
Okay.
I think
we have, 130 Main Street, and we have the strip mall to the south on Main Street. Existing conditions, we have the vacant, to the west, we have the vacant office building that has since, there's been some interest from Wayland Animal Clinic, is looking at purchasing that property and relocating from their current site. That's to the west on West Plain Street.
That building now
is vacant. I
I
think it was an insurance company. I'm not sure that was in there, but it was an office building.
Okay.
So that should be, that's going to be coming forward.
Okay.
So I put together this PowerPoint presentation. Again, existing conditions. We have the strip mall, Honey Farms, International Auto, Wayland, Liberty Pizza. And I want to be clear too, we're not talking about throwing businesses out of town. I mean, that's not what the aim of this is. It's to make this site, both sites, better. And again, the strip mall, pictures, photographs of the strip mall. There's issues with parking. People park, to serve these businesses, and backing out.
Backing into Main Street.
Backing into Main Street. Very, obviously a concern for everyone. And then looking at the corner, it's basically a sea of asphalt, right?
Right.
Wide expansion of driveway openings, gas station, we have a vacated sign. Again, looking at the site across the street, as you can see, you just see a boarded up one-story building.
Yeah.
So what I've done is I've gone through and put together some options.
Yes.
Okay? And one option is, well, how can we improve the site by keeping the existing building there and not doing anything? And one is basically, you create a landscape edge out at the corner, have a better defined parking layout, add some landscaping.
In front of the gas station.
In front of the gas station, I'm sorry, in front of the gas station. And then maybe even create, if there's a food establishment or something that would be interested in this corner building, create an outdoor eating area. Right now in Cochituate Village, there isn't a place to actually go sit. For instance, you have the Dunkin' Donuts, you have Liberty House of Pizza, but there's not a place to go sit and eat outside. So this would be one option to do that.
So you would want to turn the gas station into a restaurant or something like that? That's what you're thinking? Okay.
Correct. Well, that would be one option with keeping the building in place. Unfortunately, that would require a special permit, and they would need relief to do that because they would not be able to fulfill the parking requirement. So these are some of the issues. This is just one option. Another option is what happens if you could get both property owners, the gas station and Honey Farms, to work together. Now you have two private property owners to have one comprehensive plan. whereby you would have like shared parking in a connection in the back of the gas station, but you would tear half the gas station down and put a modest addition out front, okay? Again, with outdoor eating, but it would be a better site plan because now you have a better flow pattern as far as parking and access goes.
Sure.
So I'm just gonna go through these again. These are just draft options.
Yeah, right.
We're not telling anyone they have to develop their property this way, but just options to think about, things to think about. Again, and the purpose of this slide is what could be done by right, Susan, right? We have current zoning in place. What could be done by right as far as the zoning, because this is a corner piece of property, the gas station. If you impose all the existing setbacks at this location, the only thing you could do by right would be an ATM machine. I know it's funny, but I had to go through this exercise because it's always, well, what can they do by right? This is what they could do by right.
I see.
Again, making some modest improvements with angle parking out front, you know, making this safer, maybe even putting a sidewalk in here, so now that you're driving the traffic through the parking lot at a safer location. Obviously, we need to maintain access to the car auto body repair facility.
Yes.
But again, it's an improvement, making the site better.
Okay.
Another option is what happens if we could get both property owners to join together and put the addition on the existing honey farms and really create a nice,
that would be nice, yeah.
a nice landscape edge on the corner. Again, these are called inspirational examples of facade upgrades. I mean, this isn't an ugly facade down in Rhode Island, and this is what they did. They turned it into a mixed-use development with housing on top. Beautiful, retail storefront on the bottom. Again, it's going to be difficult at our location because of sewer. Obviously, we're driven by septic.
Yes, of course.
Okay, and again, my other photograph, again, another inspirational photo of a mixed-use development. And then these last two are just the septic issues that we have to think about because, again, Wayland doesn't have public sewer. We got a septic system behind Honey Farms, a very tight system, and of course, the gas station, a very difficult septic system on the corner.
Okay.
So again, these are things we want to think about over the next several months and go through and be creative, have some public outreach, try to bring people from the neighborhood as part of this discussion, and try to have an article for fall town meeting. Okay. So that's Main Street.
Okay, so I'd like to ask you about, I saw that 150 Main Street was up for sale. Can you, that's the CVS property, the
Correct.
very controversial CVS property.
Correct.
Can you tell us the status and what happened there and so forth?
Well, I haven't received confirmation. I did receive an email from someone notifying me that they think that the property has changed hands.
Okay.
CVS leases the property from the current owner. There's nothing preventing someone from selling their property. We do have some outstanding issues with the CVS facility right now, code enforcement. One being some of the landscaping that was redesigned, and I thank our volunteer, Kathy Shriver, for putting the effort in and providing us a better landscaping plan. But some of the landscaping has died, unfortunately, and needs to be replaced. And we're going to follow up on that in the spring. And then some of the code enforcement issues we have a signage issue at the facility right now.
So CVS presumably will stay there?
That's correct. CVS will stay there. That's correct.
Okay. And what about the various small establishments across the street from Hannah Williams? Are there any ideas there, or what's the likelihood of success with changing?
Well, we're actually working. EDC, Rebecca Stenese, and
EDC is the Economic Development Committee, everybody.
Yes. Working with the owner of 72 and 74 Main Street. That's going back to the photograph, that's the building set in the back. There are currently 2 apartment buildings on the 2nd floor, and there's a vacant insurance retail shop on that 1st floor right now. And we're working with him to see if there's any way we could use housing trust funds to convert the 2 units that are upstairs, the rental apartments, to affordable units. and make that conversion and take those proceeds and make improvements to the building. Again, this is going to take some time. We're probably going to need CPA funds. Unfortunately, the timing and everything, we probably missed it, but this is one of the goals we have to bringing back Main Street the way it used to be.
Oh, that's
So
nice.
we're looking at that as well.
With long skirts and big hats.
Yes,
and
well, you know, the more we change,
we
the
have
more
to crank the engines to start and all that kind of
it's
stuff.
kind of funny because the more it's a yogiism now. The more we change, the more we want to stay
The more
the
it
same.
stays the same. That's a French phrase. Plus ça
correct.
change, plus c'est la même chose, I think is how it goes in French. Okay, so last but not least, the Route 20 corridor.
Yes, the Route
now,
20
especially that the rail trail runs right
That's correct.
right through there, and I understand you have some signage and facade improvements in mind, and perhaps some sidewalks. And didn't you apply for a downtown technical assistance
That's
grant?
correct.
How did that work out? And what's happening with the Whole Foods Plaza, if anything?
Okay, so I applied for what's called a DHCD, Downtown Technical Assistance Grant, of up to $15,000. And the grant is a wayfinding grant to help look at signage, evaluate the signage, make improvements. It's not to pay for the signage, but to provide some technical assistance to how do we make the corridor look better.
I see.
Normally, these funds are not available to communities such as Wayland, but this year these funds, we got notice that these funds are available. So we have an opportunity right now because you know, Town Center wants to do their signage over. We have the vacant Whole Foods Plaza. Obviously, they're going to come in, they're going to want to make changes to their signage.
The gift store is still
And the
open.
gift store is still there. But there's going to be a lot going on in the Route 20 corridor as far as, you know, right now you have a water main being, you know, put in place. We would like to see sidewalks on Route 20. We'd like to see ornamental lights on Route 20. And we like to see better.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Yes, and better signage. I mean, that is the gateway into town. And of course, you have the Mass Central Trail. So what I've done is, you know, with the planning board is to put some, what they call Boston Post Road, a Boston Post Road visioning in place. And, you know, with that, basically, you know, there's a lot going on with the rail trail. And right now we have is, let me just take you through those.
Okay.
I guess I think they want to start with the Route 20 improvements first. Back when we created the Design Review Board, there was discussion about how can we make improvements, you know, to the businesses along Route 20. And we're not trying to pick on, you know, the businesses there, but I think people really want to see improvements to the gas station, to the, you know, the Wayland House of Pizza Plaza.
Right.
So, you know, we know what the existing conditions are. You know, both these slides show that, you know, we have conditions that, you know, we'd like to improve. And one of the issues we have is we don't have access from Route 20 to the rail trail. So we're working with some of these owners to see if maybe we could somehow, you know, combine and be creative with funding to get access through their property,
I see.
with funding going back to the improvements of their land
I
or their
see.
property. So these are existing conditions. In fact, Wayland House of Pizza came in front of us. They want to do their signage over. They're making improvements to their building right now. And then DRB created a slide.
What's DRB?
I'm sorry, the Design Review
What is that
Board.
review? But okay, sorry.
Basically, just show a concept plan, you know, to show some of these landowners, and this is what the wayfinding grant does, is, you know, with some modest improvements, we can really clean up the appearance of this. So, you know, that's something that the wayfinding grant is going to help us with.
Good.
But again, you have private property, different ownership,
Different owners.
and that's a difficulty, and that's why it takes long to try to get some of these projects accomplished.
That's why we have you.
And that's where we have, well, me, I shouldn't say me, but the volunteers from Economic Development Committee to the Planning Board.
Right.
And then lastly, you know, we have the Boston Post Road visioning. And with the Mass Central Trail now, you know, we have our Mass Central Trail completed from Town Center all the way through Weston.
Yeah,
Very active right now. Part of the Mass Central Trail just became part of the East Coast Greenway.
Oh, great.
East Coast Greenway runs from all the way from Maine all the way to Florida.
Wow.
It's pretty exciting, as well as, this is kind of the major connection point, right? Brings everyone where these two trails come together at Town Center. So now what are we faced with? Well, we want to go west, right? We want to go towards Sudbury, go through the wildlife refuge. We have a bridge that has to be replaced.
Right.
But that's, when you come into Wayland from Route 20, that's the first thing you see, right? When you're coming down Route 20,
Right.
that's the visual you see. And so, the old landfill, there was discussion about, parking the buses there. There was discussion about, I know DPW needs a laydown area.
Yes.
But from a planning standpoint and listening and with the wildlife refuge, this is an opportunity where we could create, maybe on the south side of the old landfill, a solar farm with, again, it's called a autumnal equinox wheel, a sun wheel, a lookout tower, create like a bird watching lookout tower. So when you're on the rail trail, it's not just the rail trail, it's other aspects.
I see.
And again, this is just a visioning that, just to give some thought as to, what we would like to see there, from, an overlook tower to, the bridge. That bridge has to be replaced.
Yeah.
Maybe we make that bridge more than a bridge. We create some decking and some benches so people could,
That would be nice.
well, if you're at Russell's, during farmer's market,
Yeah.
you want to go have lunch, you want to go sit down somewhere, you can walk on the rail trail, sit and eat. And then one of the important thing is Pelham Island.
Oh, yeah.
Right now, the Russells are very kind to the town, and they allow people to basically cut through their property. But we need to think about a formal connection from Pelham Island Road to the Mass Central Trail, so people don't have to go all the way down the end and cut through the Whole Foods old plaza, I call
I
it,
see.
to get onto the Mass Central
Oh,
Trail.
I see what you're saying.
And then what's the future of, do we create an overlay district for the Russells property? I mean, I hope Russells is here forever, but, someday they may want to sell. Well, what's the future use at Russells? Is it residential? And that's the zoning.
Yeah.
It's residential, and so these are things that we need to think about. And they're just early thoughts, and it's something that, the planning board would like to, to continue to work at and to improve that Route 20 corridor. Again, that's the gateway into Wayland, and it needs to look, it needs to shine, so.
Yeah, it does. Well, you mentioned the town center, and just a little off the subject, but Giacomo's was supposed to open on Monday. I drove by, and they're still got hammers and nails up there. What's the
they've been
latest
delayed.
schedule?
No, good. They've been delayed 2 weeks.
I
They
see.
had a issue with one of the emergency exit
I see.
doors.
Oh, okay.
All the doors at Town Center are specially ordered 8-foot doors. Normally, in malls, they're 7 feet. Well, we were lucky to have Andrew Reck, our planning board member, wanted to make sure that the doors, so there's more glass, more sunlight into these buildings.
Okay.
So they're all special doors.
Okay.
And unfortunately, they had a door that was not made correctly.
That was
the wrong,
sticky?
Well,
It was sticky?
it was actually the wrong dimension, and so
I see.
he had to have it. So that kind of stalled him.
So it should be open by the 17th or
Yeah, I would say
before Christmas.
he wants to be open before Christmas,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's very impressive. They spared. They did a fabulous job. They built a granite, brand new bar inside. Did the men's and ladies' rooms over. They, upgraded the kitchen. I mean, the kitchen was fine to begin with,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
all granite inside. They built a specialty wine. So this is.
So we'll look forward to it.
And the sign, when you see the sign, that sign that you're going to see at Giacomo's is handmade. The owner, Jackie, wanted to make sure that the sign was authentic and it was all handcrafted. So it's a very elegant sign. Again, they spared no money. They're very excited to come to Wayland, and we're happy that that they're moving in.
Yeah,
Now
well,
we
great.
need to get obviously the rest of the center filled.
Yeah,
So-
okay, well, back to that. Do you have any arrows in your quiver to require property owners to update or beautify? Is there anything that you can do, or is it really just negotiation?
It's negotiation. It's negotiation, but obviously if a property isn't up to code or doesn't meet the fire code, yes, That we
well,
do have. But
I
as
see.
far as appearance go, very difficult to
Very
do.
difficult. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, it's something that needs to be negotiated with the owner, and obviously, you know, it's something that you want to be delicate with. I mean,
I would
and
think
this is
so.
their property. But, you know, I know everyone is kind of like disappointed now that, you know, there's nothing in Whole Foods, right? We finally have a space, that mall, where people were complaining about the aesthetics and everything. Well, now we have an aesthetic mall. Everything looks nice. It's up to code. It's fire code, but it's empty.
It's empty.
And there's been some interesting comments that people have had regarding what should go in there, and I thought it was interesting. I've had several people from the Council on Aging that go to the senior center said it should be a bowling alley.
I think I heard a roller skating rink.
Well, that was another idea, and you know, I tell you, the more I listen to it, like there's a place in Somerville that has flatbread and bowl. There's a place down the Cape in Orleans called Bowl Barbecue, and these are great family events where you can go in, you can bowl, you can do something with your family, eat, and it's starting to pick up momentum. Like now that I mentioned it to people that have attended, that have gone to one of these facilities, they really enjoy it. So maybe that's the use that we need to focus on, and not just another grocery store.
Yeah, well,
Because they're, you know, everyone wants to see Whole Foods back. You know, I'm kind of disappointed that Fresh Market's not coming. But if you look at the area, right, and you look at the way retail is going as far as deliveries go, and you know, you have Wegmans, you have, you know, the Whole Foods in Sudbury, you have Roach, you know, Sudbury Farms,
right.
you have Market
Basket up
you
on
have Stop and
117.
Shop
Stop and
across
Shop.
the street,
And Stop and Shop
and
on
you
Route
have-
9.
and Stop and Shop on Route.
Donald's down.
So
yeah.
you know, like we were all like just kind of focusing on, well, geez, you know, we want the whole, we want the.
Kind of overset on supermarkets.
Well,
yeah.
that's, and so when this idea came up, I'm like, you know, this was Ann Baker. I think you know Ann.
Yeah, I don't think so.
She actually she helps with Waycam with some of the
I see.
equipment. She came up with this idea, and then I mentioned it to you know, some of the citizens here in town, and they're like, geez, that's not a bad idea, you know, and so
Who knows? It's very different from what
but
we've
it's just
ever had before.
disappointing and discouraging, because you don't want to see empty storefronts in your town. And it's been too long. But the selectmen are on this. You know, they're pressing the owners of Town Center to fill their vacant space.
Yes, that is.
And
a little bit-
EDC is too. But
Yeah.
again, I come back to it's private property, right?
Right,
So there's
right.
only so much they can do.
Right. Well, I'll keep my eyes and ears open for interesting ideas like
good.
And do we have a database of properties that need improvement or anything like that?
Well, there's a database that I cannot share, but it's a database of residential properties.
Oh no, I mean of commercial properties.
No, we do not.
You
We do not have a
don't.
database of.
And you can't really intervene if the owners put them on the market. You can't dictate who they sell.
we
I didn't
cannot
think so.
no.
Okay. All right. Well, is there anything else you'd like to say?
No, just happy Hanukkah and Merry Christmas. And,
Yeah, same to
Sue,
you.
You've done a great job with this show, and I want everyone out there
Thanks
to know
to
how hard
everybody
worker
else.
she is.
It's a
and
team effort.
I know it is, but
really
no,
is,
it's
yeah.
thank you. I really appreciate
Well,
you having
we
me.
appreciate you too. Okay, well, so we wish you luck in all these endeavors,
right,
and
lady.
we look forward to having you back on the show in the very
Okay.
near future.
All right, Happy New Year too.
That's the buzz for this week. It's also our last program of the season. We'll be taking a break during the month of January, and we'll be back again starting on February 10th. But in the meantime, if you have a town issue you'd like discussed on the buzz, call us, email us, or use the contact form on our website. Tell us what's on your mind and what you think about the show. I'm your host, Ken Isaacson. On behalf of the entire volunteer crew and guests here at Wayland Weekly Buzz, happy holidays, thank you for watching, and please tell your friends to tune in too.
What's the buzz? Tell me what's happening. 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 Why should you want to know?